Today we'll be looking at the 4 key areas where systems fail, and basically looking at that from the risk management side of things and lessons learned from previous audits. So we'll be talking about quality and integrated management systems, the risk areas for the management systems and their areas, and the questions to ask in these areas. So they're the 3 main topics that we'll be talking about today. Quality and integrated management systems. Quality management systems have been implemented in laboratories for over 30 years, until the government and business sector embraced this in the early 90s. So basically it's been running in labs for a fairly long time, and then eventually when the government decided to take this up as part of their requirement to supply to them, everyone going in the labs, well, hang on a minute, everyone's carrying on as this is like the new thing, but it's been around for ages, so it wasn't really much new for us. But from the business side of it, they embraced that in the early 1990s, and that was where the quality explosion started. So yeah, it was quite interesting on how, looking back now on how everything went together. So before we used to have a quality system, then a safety system, then an environmental management system, and from those, having 3 different systems, it caused a little bit of a havoc. So what people have been doing over the last couple of years now have been going for the integrated approach. So rather than a separate quality, safety and environmental management system, they've gone for the integrated approach. So instead of having 3 manuals, it's best to have 1 manual, so then you don't have overlap, and it makes it a lot easier to manage. Also, in the last 2 years, ethical standards have been brought into these integrated systems. So the standard for that is called ISO 26000, and this is being embraced in the transparent reporting to the market and the customers. So for commercial advantage and, I suppose, peace of mind from a business side of things, then if you're openly communicating to your customers, then you've got a higher retention rate to look after your customers and work out the best strategy to, 1, manage your business, and as well report that to your customers in being a responsible business. Okay. In section 2, so the 4 key areas where systems fail. Now, from conducting audits for a number of years, there's always the 4 main areas that every system usually falls down. These 4 systems are audits, management review, document control and corrective actions. So these are the 4 main critical areas in a quality system where we need to make sure they're looked after, otherwise you're going to jeopardise your certification, or your whole management system will break down if you don't look after those 4 areas. So what we'll do, we'll have a look at some of those little areas a little bit later on and work out what questions that we need to ask in those areas. Okay, so if we look at the audits, so some people like audits, some people don't. So these are the questions that we usually ask when, as part of an audit, is to work out this is our roadmap or where we need to go. Okay, so the first thing we need to find out is, have audits have been carried out at regular intervals and recorded on an audit schedule. So basically the audit schedule is the schedule of all the audits that run over a 12-month period. So each element is supposed to be audited once every 12 months, and this is recorded on the audit schedule. So that's the main thing where things have fallen down from there. So what we need to do is audit each element once per year, or most people usually do 3 or 4 elements about 4 times a year. So depending on what sort of company that you've got, is you can split that up a little bit, where you've got your normal areas that you look after, and then if you've got different sites or different projects, then you can audit those at different intervals, so you know where where you're tracking or the way you're looking at your business. Okay. The second thing we check is the auditors. Make sure they've got the competency and the qualifications that are registered in the training register. So as you're seeing what people are doing or conducting audits, then what qualifications do they have, or have they had any audit training, and to make sure that's dovetailed into the training register. So then the way that audits are done is by objective evidence. So we need to see the objective evidence to say, have any audits been carried out, and whoever's carrying out those audits, are they a competent person? Okay. Then the third stage that we'll be looking at is check that corrective actions have been raised and reviewed by the auditor. So not only you need to check that the auditor or the internal audits have been conducted, then the corrective actions, have they been raised and reviewed by the auditor? Okay. So from following this method, this will tell you the story if there is a problem. So if there's no audits done, and the auditor doesn't know what he's doing, and there's no corrective actions that are raised, then you've got 3 alarm bells ringing all the time. Okay. So the main documents that you need to review is the audit schedule. Have a look at the last audit. Have a look at the training register so you can see what staff are involved in the company, and then what's the training plan for that company and the corrective actions. Okay, so that's the summary of audits and the main thing and how that sort of dovetails together. The next item that we move on to is what they call management review. Now, in part of the standard, management review meeting is supposed to be held once every 12 months. Now, sometimes if you have toolbox talks and your little safety meetings, then you can use some of the requirements from the management review from your monthly meetings to your 12 monthly meetings. So your management review meeting is basically a guideline for the next 12 months to work out where we're going as a business, and to keep control of, or focus on the big picture on where we're going. Okay. So the main inputs that we need for the management review is to work out results of audits. So have any audits been done, and what have been the outcomes from some of those audits. The second part would be the customer feedback. So, what feedback are we getting from our customers? How do we know that we're tracking along the right way? An example of customer feedback was if Microsoft didn't have their QA or their corporate and social responsibility in place, then they would have picked up a lot earlier about Apple and the way that they've been interacting with their clients, and then listening to their clients, instead of taking a stand back approach saying, oh, our product's really good, then everyone needs to use it. So that's one part where they come unstuck. Okay. Third part is process performance and product conformity. So to work out, okay, are our processes working, and do we need to change those to make them flow a lot more easier? Okay. Then the next section is the status of preventive and corrective actions. So what corrective actions have been raised, and what have we learned from raising those, and what action have we taken to make sure that these items won't happen again. Alright. Also, the changes that could affect the quality management system. So if we're making any changes either by legislation or other customer requirements, might affect your management system, and then that will go towards your recommendations for improvement to make that easier. So that's our inputs that sort of go into the meeting. Now from the outputs from that, then we need to work out how the improvement of the effectiveness of the quality management system. So is the management system running effectively, and what items do we need to put into place to make that run better, and also the improvement of products and services to meet the customer requirements. So if the customer's not happy, then what do we need to change to make sure that, one, we retain the customer, and two, to make sure that we've got enough resources to look after the customer's needs. So that is the review of management review meetings, and that's the second part of those 4 critical aspects in when you're looking at the quality system and reviewing that. Okay. Section 3, we're looking at corrective actions. So, are there any corrective actions raised? So that we need to double check on what corrective actions the auditor has raised, and each of those corrective actions raised should be put on a corrective action register. So the question you will ask yourself is, if there's no corrective actions raised, then there are questions raised about the auditing of the business, then the business will be running too well, because usually when you first start on a business or a quality system, you'll have a number of non-conformances to start off with. So you'll have a high amount, and as the system gets improvements, then those non-conformances will drop down. So usually it's probably about a 3-year process until you get everything back into being a lot more organised than originally. So when we first put the quality assurance into the quarry, we actually stopped production for a whole week and cleaned up the whole yard to make sure everything was right before our NADA came around to do the audit and make sure all the signs were everything on, stuff like that. So that was year 1, where we blew a whole week. Then year 2, we probably stopped for about 2 days to make sure everything was alright, and then year 3 was just to check the day before, make sure everything was right. So then everyone knew what was going on in the quarry, and the system was working. So the simpler the system, the easier it is to run.
If you'd like to find out more, click the link in the description now.